And moving on, Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid in Germany for high-level meetings with German officials. Once again, topping the agenda is the nuclear agreement with Iran. Joining us now with more on this trip and Israel-Germany relations is Professor Shlomo Shpiro, director of the Europa Institute at Bar-Ilan University. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So first of all, we're seeing really warming ties between Israel and Germany in recent weeks. I mean, first, President Herzog visiting the country, and now Prime Minister Lapid. What can you tell us about these visits?
These visits just illustrate how close the relations between Israel and Germany are at this point of time. It's a coincidence that these two visits take part 1 week after the other. The event relating to the massacre of the Olympic Games in 1972 was, of course, determined since a long time ago. But you see how close the relationship between Germany and Israel is, and there's a whole range of issues that the two leaders would like to discuss.
So what does Prime Minister Lapid hope to gain from this visit?
The most important thing is to try to convince the Germans to stick to the European position regarding a possible nuclear treaty with Iran. It seems that the negotiations with Iran continue behind the scenes. I don't think that in Jerusalem we have a full view, an overview of what is really going on. And there's great fear in the Israeli government that European governments, together with the Biden administration, could surprise us one morning with a fait accompli, with a treaty that is signed by the Iranians. So that would be the first item on the agenda. The second are the grave concerns of the Germans regarding energy shortage in Germany and in Europe generally because of the lack of gas, because the Russians stopped delivering gas to Germany. The winter is just around the corner. It's going to be very cold in Germany, and the government fears it's not going to have enough energy to produce electricity and to heat homes. Israel is a gas manufacturer, is a gas producer, an exporter to some extent. And so Iran, Russia, and energy would be high on top of the agenda.
Mm-hmm. Now, expanding on Iran, I mean, Germany, along with other European countries, and you mentioned the United States, are at the forefront of the negotiations with Iran. They also remain firmly convinced that a nuclear deal is the best option, remarks that Chancellor Scholz echoed today. I mean, what can you tell us about Germany's position? How much sway does Israel have?
Regarding the treaty with Iran, the devil is in the details. We don't know how exactly the treaty is going to look like. I don't think anybody can say at this moment. It seems that the Europeans are more lenient towards the Iranians than the Americans. They want to conclude an agreement. They want to get this issue off their heads. They feel that they are overwhelmed with the crisis with Russia and the Ukraine, and they want to get this done. Of course, many Germans also view Iran as a potential supplier of oil, and the less gas they have from Russia, the more they would be dependent again on oil from the Middle East. So that pushes towards a treaty.
Mm-hmm. And yet, you know, France, the UK, and Germany have said on Saturday that they had serious doubts about Iran's intentions to revive the nuclear deal. Chancellor Scholz again saying today that he doesn't see a deal in the near future. Does this mean that Israel's diplomatic campaign against the nuclear deal is working on the German chancellor, perhaps on European countries?
I think Israel's strategy is working, but on a limited level. We can wake up one day to a different proposition altogether. What the Germans and the French and the British say about Iranian reticence is all part of the negotiation skills. On the one side, they move forward. On the other side, they move a little bit backwards. It's a bit like dancing a waltz, in which the two partners come a little bit closer and then move a little bit further apart. I think a treaty with Iran is not out of the question. And I, for one, am quite worried that they will come to an agreement with little concern to Israel's grave misgivings.
So I'll ask this question of you as well. I mean, where does Germany stand now? I mean, how much longer can the nuclear talks continue until it will say enough is enough? And what will happen then? I mean, would Germany join a military option against Iran?
No, Europe would not join a military option against Iran under any circumstances that I can see, short of an Iranian attack against Europe. That would be out of the question. But they can look aside if Israel undertakes more active measures to stop the Iranian nuclear threat. The negotiations can go on indefinitely. They have been going on for a very long time already. There is no deadline, and if there are deadlines, they can easily be extended. It very much depends on circumstances beyond the control of the Iranians and the Europeans, because everything that happens in the Ukraine now, for example, Ukrainian military successes against the Russians, reflects on the negotiations with Iran. As I said, Iranian oil could be an alternative to Russian gas, and that is the main thing they are looking at.
All right, Professor Shlomo Shpiro, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, it's Emmanuel Kadosh. I wanted to invite you all to subscribe to ILTV Plus, where you can find our daily news and updates about Israel. And not only that, but live feeds, entertainment, our kosher food show, and so much more. Needless to say, your subscription to ILTV Plus helps us grow and create more content while also supporting the state of Israel. Our app is available on all platforms and devices, so I'll see you guys there.